Hi and welcome to the second part of the tutorial for workshop 1. And so what I'm going to talk about is the next step, which is give an example of a possible data set that's small. So how do you do that? So in the previous tutorial we talked about deciding on the sampling question and the research question on the sampling and on the survey questions that must have been asked in order to compute or do the study that you're finding in your article. And now what we do next is we will use those information to create a data set. So the step 6 is that you start recreating this possible data set. First, you create a table, and what I did here is I have one column with for participants, and here you will create 20 data points, with one for each possible participants from the sample you picked. In my case, remember, it was parents with babies, 2-month-old babies. So I have a column for 20 parents, parent 1, parent 2, 3, 4, up to 20. And then I have 4 columns, and those 4 columns are based on each survey question that I came up with. So the first survey question was, do you put your baby to sleep with milk? The second was, do you always or do you try to have your baby finish the milk? The third question was, do you comfort your baby with milk, right? And then do you watch TV while feeding? So what I did, I really just created one column for each survey question, and you should do the same thing. Let's say you have often studies are based on race or gender, so one column would be what race do you identify with, and here that would be what race do you identify with, what gender do you identify with, are you a smoker, for instance, right? And what I do is, because I'm lazy, so I just make up a short name for the entire question. So that's why it says sleep with milk, finish milk, comfort milk, TV and feeding. So I remember what question each column is based on. Okay, so once you have done this, you're almost there. The next thing is to create a mock data set that imitates the study that's quoted in the article. So now you fill in each cell with a fake answer. You make up the answer. So I have an imaginary parent 1, and this parent 1 was asked, do you put your baby to sleep with milk? And I had to remember those 5 answer choices. Always, sometimes, what was in the middle, occasionally, rarely, never. I have all those possibilities that I put in here. So I said the first parent, do you put your baby to sleep with milk, said always. I don't know, right? I have no idea. But let's say that's what the parent said. Then the same parent was asked, and how about, do you always ask do you try to have your baby finish the milk at each meal? And I said the parent said occasionally. I'm just making this up. Then the third question for the same parent is, well, are you comforting your baby with milk? And I'm just making this answer up. I say that parent said occasionally. Do you watch TV while feeding your baby? And I say that parent said never. I don't know, I'm making up fake parents, I'm making up fake responses, all mock data. Parent 2, right? Let's say for the first question, does your baby sleep with, do you put your baby to sleep with milk? That parent, let's say, said, and my mouse is a little iffy here, sorry about that, says sometimes. The next, for the next question, the same parent says always. For the third question, do you comfort your baby with milk? The parent says never, but the same parent is watching TV each time they feed their baby. Again, I'm making this up and I'm putting one of the response options in each cell. I'm sorry about the mouse thing here. Each cell needs to be filled out with a possible response option that's taken from the options given in the survey questions. I'm going back to the survey questions just to refresh your memory. Here's one of the survey questions. One of the survey questions, right, was a fourth question. When feeding a baby, how often do you do any of the following things? How often do you watch TV while feeding a baby? And the response options were always, often, occasionally, rarely, never. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those are the options that I randomly assigned to the cells. I am just making this up. I spent a minute on it. I am just plugging this in there. So that's what you should be doing. Do not put anything in those cells that is not a response option of your survey question, right? You have to think that through a little bit. Think first about step 5, making up survey questions with possible response options, and then use those response options to plug in your answers here. So, and then you're almost there. The next step is very easy. Remember, I asked you to assign numbers to each response option. Just number them through, always as 1, often is 2, occasionally is 3, rarely is 4, never is 5, and just in parentheses, you put in this number. This is going to be important for running computations, because eventually, right, the entire idea is we take something people say, turn it into numbers, interpret it, and then kind of analyze what people say on a higher level, on a more scientific level, right? And you need to crunch some numbers in between to be able to analyze what people have said. Okay, that's where the scientific part comes in. That's why we are in college, right? That's what's happening here. Okay, so this was the second tutorial, and the next stage of your assignment is to represent those data sets graphically. This is what will be covered in the next workshop, which will be a lab session, and we will be using Excel. In order to be in this workshop and to be successful at it, you will have to have a complete table. It does not have to be in Excel, it can be handwritten, but it needs to be ready to go. It needs to have something in each cell that's based on the survey questions. Don't do it when you come there, because it will eat up all the time and we won't have time to create this data set in Excel and then create graphs. Okay. Looking forward to seeing you again. Looking forward to see your mock data sets, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.